All right, I took a walk the other day out in the forest and I took a friend with me. And while we were walking, I caught myself explaining all the different trees. This is a madrone, this is a tan oak, this is I started showing them how some of the stumps that were cut down a long time ago had new cambium tissue growing up around it because those root grafted to the adjacent fir tree. And this person was actually pretty fascinated by my tree talk. And I thought to myself, gosh, I hope I'm not boring them. I do run on at the mouth a few times. I'm a little bit tree-centric. So this is yet another tree-centric type of a video. I'm not showing any action today. I'm not showing any trimming. I'm not showing big trees coming down. But I hope you enjoy this. There's a few topics in here I really want to talk about. And I'm always paying attention to the state of the forest. And I'm going to continually be updating you guys as to my observations. So let's go for a walk in the woods. I want to talk about the biodiversity of the forest and the trees that I see in my travels. You see, I've traveled quite a bit. I've been to London, I've been to tropical islands, and I've been to the desert, and I've been many, many places in the United States, as well as Canada and Alaska. And one thing that I do notice is there is a completely different set of trees that grows natively in each of these areas. Well, I want to talk a little bit about the madrone tree right here, which is one of my favorite of the native trees in California. But it's not all over California. It's only in specific areas at certain elevations. It's quite common in the Santa Cruz Mountains where I live. And this tree has little tiny berries on it. And you know what? These berries are edible. And they have an interesting taste. They taste a little bit like strawberry, but after a minute, they taste more like shoe leather. So I don't recommend them.
Yuck.
But they are edible. And when they get really ripe, there's a number of birds that are attracted to them, including the band-tailed pigeons. Band-tailed pigeons are an amazing bird. They're fairly large. They're not like a city pigeon. I like to watch them from up in the sky, and here's my tree platform. And it's so interesting to view the forest from up above. So I've got some shots with my drone here, as well as the tree platform. I'm able to make forest observations, and I'm constantly paying attention to the decline of certain species of trees, which brings me back to my main topic, and that's the biodiversity of the native forest. And in our area, we've got about a dozen native trees that are fairly common up here. And a lot of these trees are in severe trouble. As I've spoken many times, the tan oaks are highly susceptible to the Phytophthora ramorum, as are a lot of the canyon live oaks. And further down in the valley, the coast live oaks are getting hammered by it. And now the black oaks are starting to get hit by it as well. But the madrone trees, they seem to be getting hit by a disease that is pretty common. It's called Botryosphaeria. There's an example of a tree that has all but completely died from the Botryosphaeria. Now, the Botryosphaeria, unfortunately, there's no cure for it. As most tree diseases have no cure. And here's an overall view of my forest area, which I like to show. And you can see lots and lots of completely dead tan oaks. But what's interesting is the way that a lot of these trees will grow. They grow together in groupings. There'll be whole areas of nothing but madrones, including some very, very tall madrones. This one's well over 100 feet tall. And it's a fairly moist forest. You can see that right now we've been having a lot of rain, and the side of the mountain that we are on does get a lot of rainfall. We don't get as much sun. So the trees on our side of the hill versus the side that's over on the western side, that is completely different. There's a lot of more dry trees over there. So I wanted to talk a little bit about, the diseases that we've got that are hammering our forests right now. Unfortunately, the madrone trees, like I said, they're being hammered by the Botryosphaeria, and they seem to be severely impacted if their root system is disturbed or if there's changes. There's yet another dead one over there. See, the top of that's all black. I've got some shots showing what some of the small areas of the tree look like when the Botryosphaeria hits small branches, because it's usually just a little bit here and a little bit there, and it's accumulative. It builds up throughout the whole tree, and eventually you'll have whole tops die back or whole sections. It's a very, very slow acting disease. There's a bit of the Botryosphaeria. You can see it. It's almost like a fire blight look, but it's not, and it's very, very serious. And this is a particularly healthy example of a madrone, because a lot of the madrones are not looking very good. And then getting back to the rest of the woods, as you can see, this whole area right here is a nice grouping of madrone trees, and I love going out in the madrone forest. But you can go along, and then all of a sudden it'll completely change. There's some of those berries I was talking about. But let's get down to the lowlands. Now, down in the lowlands, they have an entirely different set of native trees as well. They've got by the hills, we've got a lot of the coast live oaks, but because this is an urban environment, we have an entirely different biodiversity of imported trees. In California, where I live, there are literally hundreds and hundreds of different types of trees that we end up working on, especially in some of these affluent areas where they've been planting trees. This home here, it was built in 1906, so there's over 100 years of old, ancient, different types of trees, including palm trees and eucalyptus trees. That grove of eucalyptus trees right below there is the entryway for the driveway. The driveway goes right through it. And sadly, right next door to them is an open lot, and it's currently being developed, and all these beautiful trees that I'm flying over here are slated for removal. Well, hopefully not all of them, but you can see the orange markings around them, so they've got to be planned. So this is a fairly old planting of eucalyptus trees, and the driveway was put in, and then they planted the trees all the way along. And an interesting story here is the adjacent property, which is being developed, wants to put their driveway directly alongside of this driveway. And we're contesting that because the trees were planted when the driveway was put in, so they adapted to the environment. But if they put in a driveway adjacent to this row of trees, that's going to severely impact the roots on half of these trees. So, she was arguing, saying, well, you've got a driveway. Well, yeah, but things are entirely different. People don't always see things clearly when it comes to development and what they want to do. They see things their way, not the rational, realistic way quite often. And eucalyptus trees were resistant to most insects, but now they're getting hammered. The eucalyptus longhorn borer, the eucalyptus psyllid, there's so many insects that are attacking the eucalyptus trees. So importing non-native trees has as many problems as growing native trees that get new problems. So I don't know what to say. People are always asking me, what should I plant? Now I really don't know. Well, with all that being said, thank you so much for watching this, and please subscribe and leave me a comment.